The Melting Pot. Hosted by Dominic Monkhouse.
Hello, I'm Dominic Monkhouse. Welcome to the Melting Pot Podcast. Today I'm joined by Cate Murden, the founder and CEO at Push Mind and Body. Going to be talking to her about what it took to leave 16 years in the advertising industry and set up her own business. Cate talks openly about some of the challenges that she faced that drove her to start her own business to fill the void. So many entrepreneurs have that personal drive to fill a gap in the market that they themselves have experienced, and Cate's no different there. And what she's doing now to solve problems for brands like Sainsbury's, ITV and Twitter, looking really at wellness. So Cate, welcome. Tell us, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Cate Murden, and I am the founder of Push Mind and Body. Soon probably to just be Push, but more of that later. And we've been going, with 4 years this December. We are a corporate wellness company. We help people, teams and companies work better. And whilst that sounds very simple, we've spent a long time on those words. So I'm very proud that we finally got to them.
Are they all equally important?
Yes, they are. Yeah, I mean, I think that the work better bit is really, really important. The people, teams and companies is super important because it's very important for demonstrating that we have an understanding of people and that everything that we do is focused on individuals. But ultimately, we understand that in order for this stuff to be signed off, it's got to make financial sense. And I think that we've talked long and hard about the kind of thing around corporate wellness. And actually, corporate well-being conjures up images of yoga in a boardroom. And actually, what we talk about is helping those companies work better and be more well. And therefore, wellness seems more in fitting with that. So it's a lot of work has gone into that, and we've only actually done it over the last few weeks, actually. And that's probably, as we've really kept evolving as a company, and it's as much about the culture of the company and the engagement of the team, and as much as the performance of the people. So I think we've really broadened the work that we do. And therefore, yes, they are all equally important.
Your reticence to be yoga in the boardroom, is that why you've dropped the mind and body?
That's exactly right, basically. To not put too fine a point on it, we need to move away from the fluffy, right? I mean, I say that slightly loathingly in that, I think well-being ain't going anywhere, right? Wellness is here to stay. People, and I think finally companies are sitting up and realizing how important it is to look after your teams in a time when the world is moving at such pace. And we treat ourselves like the computers that we use. And the one thing that we forget to do is to re-energize or to rest. Companies are realizing that they need to look after their teams and give them the tools to be able to deal with this new world. So wellness and well-being ain't going anywhere. But I think it's a slightly different shift on it so that it fits, so it feels more corporate, or moreover, it has financial reward for the company in doing that, because that's the way that we get this stuff signed off, right?
Yeah, because yoga in the boardroom is a perk and Push is something that has a bottom line impact.
Thank you. And that's why I want to work with you, Dom, because you sum shit up. Rather than me waffling on for 10 minutes. Yep, that's exactly it. It's not a perk, it's a must.
So corporate, define for us, who's a target customer for you? Who's an ideal customer for you?
So I come from I worked in 20 years in advertising, so I get that space really, really well. Push has been designed for busy professionals to live and work better. I come from that space of media and advertising. I get that world really, really well. That's where the mainstay of our clients have been. But actually, the work that we're doing now is very much stretching into a lot of different areas. We've just signed off LaSalle. We've worked with Barclay Homes for quite some time. We're pitching, and fingers crossed it will come somewhere with Trainline, which arguably is a tech company. We are very much getting into new markets. So, it's always tailored for busy professionals, and certainly our reach is growing into a lot of different areas.
And what problem does the CEO at your client face that for which you're the the tool to fix it?
Do you know what? And I'm really pleased that you've asked that, because there you go. There's a beautiful example of why we changed it to corporate wellness. If wellness is the question and the answer isn't, the question isn't being asked right. What I mean by that is that what I'm really keen to do is to leapfrog over anyone saying we need a wellbeing program, and to come in and to answer the business problems that teams are having that we then go and work with, if that makes sense. So, where we come in is we focus on three separate areas. So culture, engagement, and performance. We believe companies with stronger cultures have much greater productivity and much greater propensity for their teams to stay there and to love working there. So we help companies create cultures that people want to be part of, or indeed we help their people create cultures that they want to be part of. We look at engagement as well. The fact of the matter is only 30% of the workforce actually believe that they're engaged. That's a horrifying fact. And if not disengaged, actively disengaged, where they're causing you problems. So, how do we engage teams? How do we help them love the place that they work? And then finally, we look at performance, and falling within that, the learning and development and harder and softer skills, as well as actual resilience. So focusing on those individuals, getting them to peak performance so that they genuinely feel like they're thriving in the roles that they're doing. So there's three quite big chunky areas that we work with them.
Are all the tools you deploy things Push has developed itself, or are they sort of things you've been able to take off the shelf?
Really, let me be really honest. In terms of how we work, we're essentially a talent network. Myself and my team, so I have a core team of just coming up to 5 people. We're just about to employ our 5th person. We are a core team that go in and act as translators. We translate what the business problem is into a person-centric solution, right? A people-centric solution. And we then bring in the right team to be able to deliver that. So we speak with your team and we create a solution for you with the right team to be able to deliver it. But essentially, we are bringing together talent, the right talent to be able to deliver that. So we don't IP the deliverables, the tools, as it were. Our IP comes in the formula that we use in the first place, and the process and the program that we create in the first place. And actually, rather interestingly, what I'm working on at the moment is an IP-able program, something that is very much ours. I want us to be known for having this tool that we go in and whilst the execution of it will be completely different in every single instance, in order to support that team, that company, those individuals, they go through a process which is ownable by Push.
What do you do to people, or what does your process look like at the beginning, so that you can line up your network of talented individuals, and how do you scope the problem for a client?
So there's two things. So the process and then the program. So the process is that we understand, we create, we manage, and we execute / measure. So the understanding is we do an audit and we do one-to-one interviews to really understand what's going on within the company. Then we create, so we basically then tailor the right program to deliver it to that team. We then execute it, so it's complete end-to-end solution. So we operate in pain relief. We basically take away all the pain so that companies don't have to. And then finally, we constantly measure and evolve that program so that it's completely on point. So that's our process. The program is based upon the basic human needs. So we basically ensure that the individuals are satisfied, that their 4 basic human needs are satisfied within our programs. First of all, social, so that they understand their own vision and how it aligns with that of the company and their values as well. Emotional, so that they feel safe and secure, so that they feel like they're within a secure environment in order to then be able to bring their best to it, and in line with obviously ensuring that their values align with that of the company. Then we go into mental, so that they feel focused and they feel stimulated in the work they do, and also that their growth and development are being supported. And then finally physical. So that's basically where we look at, are they eating, sleeping, having enough rest, having enough exercise? So really looking at their resilience. So basically our programs then will cover off those 4 basic human needs, and that everything that we do will ladder up to those.
Just going back to the sort of CEO of your clients, what are they doing? Are they sitting there going, staff turnover's too high? People seem to be going off sick too high. Are they the main drivers, or are there some others?
Those are the main things. I think really nowadays it's a combination of attrition levels. More and more we're hearing about stress, that people being signed off with stress, and I hate to say this, but we've dealt with some companies where I'm afraid suicide has happened. There have been instances of suicide, and indeed people have actually been on suicide watch within the company. So the propensity of that is really growing. And just people engagement really in productivity. So looking at how, in particular, a really, really big area for us is how we support teams throughout transition. One of the greatest areas, one of the consistence that you have is change, if not even more than ever. And actually, it's about supporting teams throughout those periods in order to ensure that they're still delivering. We worked with Oath or Yahoo as they joined with AOL to form Oath. And it was basically about looking after people throughout that merger, throughout that process. The point being is that, and actually the reaction that we had from the team was, we still didn't know what was coming, but we felt prepared for it. We're not a change management company. We don't look after the process. We look after the people within it to ensure that they can still keep delivering at optimum level throughout those periods.
With something like that AOL Yahoo transition, is it difficult to measure success? I mean, does somebody have to say, we think it could have been this bad and it wasn't that bad? Or was it easier to get some sort of ROI some metric on the table?
Well, listen, when it comes to our work is particularly hard to measure. And the reason it's particularly hard to measure is it's dependent upon what how the client is prepared to work with you. So we look at 3 measurements of success. We have feedback from every single session that we do directly afterwards. We have engagement metrics, so we have the survey that we do beforehand, and we'll then go back in on quarterly tranches to look at the shift in metrics on that. And then we'll look at tangible business metrics across a period of time. So with one of the clients, Havas, that we work with, we've managed to get their attrition levels down by 30%. And in the case of Oath, we looked at their sales targets. So we looked at how they were hitting their sales figures across that period and whether or not the teams were still able to deliver against them versus their norm. So it's dependent upon that which we can work with our client on. But, coming back to that point about, wanting to turn this into a hard line, because that's what people buy. The fact that with someone like Havas, we've been able to demonstrate how we've saved them £1.5 million. Once you equate those figures back, that suddenly becomes a really real figure.
Okay, look, that's fab. And so 5 employees now, world domination. Do you have a? That's next. do you have a big vision for the business, or big vision for humanity, or what's?
Push was born out of a genuine desire that I wanted no one else to go through what I'd gone through. I was signed off with stress, and prior to that, I'd spent a year just feeling like I was existing, and that's pretty rubbish, and it's come from a genuine desire that I want to share this stuff that I've learned, in that, I believe that if you understand yourself better, then you can work better. And it's great being able to see teams change. Certainly some of the work that we're doing at the moment, where we're working with a company on their vision and values, how you can see them growing and developing as a company is amazing. I set out at the beginning of the year with 2 members of staff, and I said by the end of the year I wanted 5 members of staff, and we're in May and we're there. I want to keep going with that. Personally, I think one of my biggest goals is I need to get my time right, as in I need to be sure that I'm doing the thing that I want to be doing, my actual day-to-day job. That's my real goal for the end of the year. So cutting up the workload So I'm actually doing what I want to be doing rather than everything, which is kind of what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, the sort of small business entrepreneur's dilemma. Want to work for yourself, but actually not really having a company and ending up doing loads of stuff that you don't like doing, which is why you ended up working for yourself in the first place.
Absolutely. And what's lovely is that, one of the things I've really realised, and Dom, I imagine you know this better than anyone, when you start your own business, you get to know yourself like you can't even believe, because it's literally just you doing all of it. And you have to face yourself head on and learn more about yourself than you ever have. And that was a challenge, right? But actually, I'm starting to come out of that period now, because I've got a proper team around me and it feels like a company. But now I need to move it on to actually for the job to become something that what I really want to do, rather than being the business owner, getting involved every single part of it. And actually, what I really want to do is much more of the facilitation and the content, and still stay within the kind of the business development side, because that's my baby. But, actually going out and doing talks and facilitating workshops, because that's what I genuinely love. So it's about building the business around me to be able to enable that.
Could I take you back then to before Push and to before your year of rubbishness? Could you tell me about that? How you ended up setting up a business on your own, and not lots of people end up not engaged, but most people plod on. So how did you sort of overcome inertia or fear, and particularly if you were in a position where you're not firing on all cylinders, then it must have been really difficult to break out of that cycle.
Yes, I was working in media. As I said, I was 16 years I was working in media, and I'd reached head of partnerships in a really big media agency. And up until then, I loved it. I loved everything about media. I loved the work, the craft itself. I loved the social side of it. My life was entrenched in that world. But towards that last year or so, I just kind of lost the love of it. It just didn't feel like me so much anymore. And that thing about existing, I was just kind of waiting for the weekend. That's a pretty rubbish way to spend your life, right? Anyway, so I'd always kind of like half looked after myself and half drunk wildly at the weekends as well. And as part of my kind of looking after myself, in the January of 2014, I went off to a boot camp. And I loved it, so a fitness retreat. And I loved it, absolutely everything about it. And I came away from it, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to go and run. I want to go and create my own boot camp. Anyway, so I came back full of hope and promise. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I was sucked back into life and my job and my mortgage and my friends. And it just seemed like a totally unrealistic dream. Anyway, so that was that. Fast forward to the summer, the July, and my mum, bless her, hadn't been very well. She had cancer, which fortunately she made full recovery from. So that for me was a real tipping point, and all of those kind of pressures came crashing in, and I was signed off with stress. And I just kind of sat back at that point and thought, do you know what, this is the universe's way of giving me a bit of a nudge. I shouldn't be doing this anymore, and I should be thinking about doing something else. And I decided at that point I've got to turn it from being the worst thing that happened to me to the best thing. And that's when I started working on the concept of Push. So I managed to had a very honest conversation with the company that I was working for. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't think you want me to be here anymore. Let's have a conversation about me leaving. And it was with that I then started working on what Push was going to be. And it just, as I said, it came from a genuine desire that I just didn't want anyone else to have to go through what I had gone through. That feeling of just existing and just not being, and ultimately being signed off with stress, and realising that you can actually do something about it. And you're right. In those moments, how do you find the energy to do these things? I genuinely feel when you have nothing, a man much wiser than me once said, when all you have is nothing, then everything is possible. And that's where I've got to. I had to turn that around, and that's what galvanised me to do it.
So what did you do? First customer, first thing.
So basically, after that, I went over to, this is before Push had kind of been formed, I went over to Ibiza to go and run a retreat with one of the trainers that I'd met at the boot camp that I'd gone to. And so we went over to Ibiza and was there 2 days, and it became woefully apparent that we were not going to work in partnership with each other. So I came away from that thinking, what am I going to do? I've literally given up my career to start this. And that's when I came back and started thinking about, dear God, I could actually do this on my own, which just seemed like a crazy idea. And I just kind of think when things are right, they start falling into place. And as I said, Push was always created from a desire of helping busy professionals like myself. So I started pulling together different people that I knew. And Push originally was around 4 different disciplines. So mind, nutrition, exec coaching, and exercise. And I knew people in all of these different disciplines. And it just made sense to give people that kind of holistic package. So I launched in the December. And in the January, we had our first retreat. So we were retreat-based initially. So the idea was that people came to a retreat for a week. And they'd learn all of these skills, which they'd then take back with them back to their real lives. And, I look back on it and it's ridiculous. Somehow I think we had 6 people on that first retreat. I don't know quite how I pulled it off, and ran this retreat in the New Forest. And it was amazing, and I pulled in every single favour I'd ever been owed in terms of PR. And actually, I think we ran 8 retreats that year. We were on 8 retreats in total. I've never had any massive desire to run my own business. But I created these retreats thinking, this romantic dream that I'd be waffling around an old farmhouse with 2 gun dogs at my feet. Lo and behold, I ended up sending out bog-off emails, desperately trying to get people to come along to it and refilling toilet rolls. It absolutely was not the job of my dreams that I thought it was going to be. And at the same time, people were kind of saying to us, oh, we really want to come along to one of your retreats, but we can't get them off work. And then a friend of mine, who at the time was the marketing director of Twitter, said, oh, we'd actually really like to do something with you. We'd like to do something in-house. And bear in mind, so this is kind of like the back end of 2014. And it was like, this is it. This could be the thing. Actually, why am I expecting, if I want to help busy professionals, why am I expecting them to come to us? Why don't I take this stuff to them? And that's how Push in its current guise was formed. And the business model obviously works so much better. And moreover, is a means of getting to many, many, many more people much more quickly. And it just makes complete sense. So that over that process, really in its current guise, Push has kind of been going for about 3 years. And prior to that, we had a year's worth of retreats running.
Are there types of things that you're yet to bring into your sort of portfolio as you develop?
I suppose that what I would say is that in terms of the kind of the well-being functionality, we're really good at that, right? And the breadth of everything that we do is huge. As I mentioned earlier, we waxed to come and do one of our talks, and then on the other side, we have Beyonce dance classes, one-to-one coaching, psychotherapy, nutrition, lunch, and that we've got that stuff down, right? But then on the other side, actually the area I think that I want us to get really good at is the culture stuff. It's just so fundamentally important about helping companies get their cultures genuinely right and understand what their purpose is. And I think purpose-driven organisations, are going to become more and more prevalent, and also values-driven, right? So, doing things for the right reasons, working out what they are. I saw a really interesting stat the other day, and it's so true. So many companies, they're so uber keen to understand what their competitors are doing and then just go and emulate them. And the reason being is because they don't stand for enough themselves, rather, and making their own decisions themselves about what they want to do. And so there's a huge opportunity there in helping companies really understand what they actually stand for. I think another really big area for us as well, what we're noticing nowadays, and I use this term loosely, and I slightly hate it, but millennials, what they want to know is how a company is going to help them learn and develop. So how do we start working with companies to have really brilliant growth programs in place to support their teams really improving themselves as much as their harder skills? We know how much, if your self-awareness improves, then your productivity improves. It's really simple. And so areas like that are really going to be a big focus for us, I think, over the next few years.
Cate, that's magic. Before I let you go, I've got one last question to throw at you.
Go on then.
If you started it all again,
Yes.
what would you do differently?
Do you know what? I must say, I saw my coach the other day, and I must say that I should start this conversation by saying I was very tired when I went to see her. And she was like, so what do you really want to do? I was like, I just want to sit in a room and stroke cats. and which obviously isn't really what I want to do. But I think that if I was going to do it all again, I think my big thing at the moment is that I really want to get right what my actual job title is, or rather my job description is. And what I really want my job description to be is the doing of what Push does, i.e. the coaching and the facilitation. So what I would probably do is start with what I do and then grow it out, rather than maybe doing the facilitation for other people to do that. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm very happy that's what we do, and I'm very happy that's what I do. But my big focus at the moment is getting the thing that I do right for me more than anything else, not so much for the business, for me. So I think I would do more of what I'm truly incredibly passionate about, and have the opportunity to do more of that within the business that I'm passionate about.
That sounds like that's you telling yourself to take some of your own medicine.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm running a wellbeing company, and my wellbeing is just nowhere near as high as it needs to be. And that's the thing, I sat down with my team yesterday, and we talked about this. We're busy at the moment, and I would be a fool if I wasn't managing that. The well-being of my team is my priority. The way that we work, we all of course, it's a completely flexible, fluid way of working. I've got a holiday policy, a no limitation holiday policy, of course. We all have real open hours in terms of how and when we work. That's the one gift that I can give my team when you work with a small company. But the fact of the matter is we're all really busy at the moment, and we're stressed because we need a new account manager. I'm not doing the work that I want to be doing. One of my team isn't doing the work that she wants to be doing, and the other one of my team is having way too much responsibility being pushed upon her. Therefore, we need that account manager in place to help all of our well-being. So yeah, there is very much a dose of our own medicine. And once you get that, everyone's happier. When they're happier, they work better. And I can already see, since we had that conversation yesterday, we're more united again, rather than slightly frayed edges, which is where we've got to.
Cate, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to me today.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Dom.
The Melting Pot was hosted by Dominic Monkhouse, and you can find out more about Dom on LinkedIn. Just search for Dominic Monkhouse or his companies, Foundry Media or Foundry 51.